Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Jan Gaffney.
Here.
Tim Holcomb.
Here.
Elson McFadden-Kiesling.
Here.
Nancy Moon.
Here.
Alan Panter.
Here.
Marilyn Pomeroy absent. Maggie Sands.
Here.
Julie Meredith here.
May I have a motion, please, to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved. Oh, I'll second that.
Okay.
Allison.
Yeah. All those who approve of the motion as for the agenda as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Those who disapprove, please say nay. Motion carried. Call to the public. I guess we don't have any public today.
We're enjoying the weather.
It is gorgeous out. Any questions about the consent agenda?
No. I'll move that we approve it as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those who disapprove, please say aye. Okay, motion carried. Friends of the Library report.
Good evening. Not a busy month this month. Friends are continuing to evaluate software to manage membership roles, participation, finances, and so forth. It's called Overview. So far, it's been favorably received. We're going to start migrating data, I think, in the next month or so and see how it works. Just FYI. Friends are also investigating a new logo, which is TBD. They're upgrade from the one we currently have. And lastly, 13 new members were added at the latest book sale this morning.
Yay.
That's terrific.
Yeah, thank you.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else? Anybody have any questions for Jim?
Is Lance doing the logo work? Do you know? Or?
I don't know who's doing that.
It is. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Lance.
Is it all?
Yep. It's Lance.
Can we have the library statistics, please?
Okay, so you have the statistical report in front of you, and it is a comparison from this year to last year. As you can see, our downloads are jumping significantly. Wireless users are up a little bit. Study rooms are down a smidge, but nothing significant there. The children's programs are up. The one thing that we noticed was that the adult programs are up, but the participation is down, and we want to point out that that's nothing to be concerned about. It's that the type of programs we are doing are more hands-on. We're doing more makerspace type programs, so they're more intimate, smaller groups of people so that people can get hands-on with the equipment. So fewer large gatherings and things like that, and some smaller hands-on sorts of things. So, any questions about any of the statistics?
Everyone like the new format? Looks great.
I do. The downloads increase is so significant.
Yeah.
It's double. Insight?
It's just people are finding that service. Every time somebody
Just
new
like-
finds that service, yep.
Wow.
And it's been great. And we have budgeted accordingly. We've been
Okay.
tracking it obviously we've been tracking it very closely.
Yeah.
And when we wrote the 2025 budget, we made a huge shift
Yeah.
in the way we were spending our money, because this is the way people are using it, and that's okay. We're ready for that.
Yeah, I mean, the book is a book.
A book is a book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Do you find that it, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Do you find that it peaks on all of the like new releases and more, contemporary or popular things, or is it like children's, adults? Where do we know where the?
Not necessarily, but I think if you really want to know more, we should bring Neil in, and he could do a nice presentation about that.
Yeah, I'm
if you'd
quite
like to.
interested.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
I would be happy to bring him in to do that. He would love to do that, actually.
Anyone?
Yeah, when it comes to sustainability of that sort of thing, I know that like Hoopla, for example, I saw the invoice
we pay on a per download basis.
Yes, we do.
And so other ones are more just like a monthly subscription, is that right? Or
So, well, not exactly. So the way it works, Overdrive is built like a regular collection, meaning we purchase copies of materials in the same way we do for our physical books. And so if you go to check out that item and it's on, and somebody is using it, you have to wait to use it. And we have a certain number of copies of each book, and a hold is placed. Hoopla, on the other hand, is we pay per usage. The way we manage that is that we only allow people to use so many Hoopla downloads per month. And so what we're training our patrons to do is to be power users. So you use Overdrive for most of your usage, and if you need something right away, then we teach you to use your Hoopla account, those downloads that you get, in order to get things right away. So the really smart thing to do is to, both of these services allow you to have like a wish list or a favorites. And so I suggest people go in and mark everything that you're interested in favorites-wise. When you want a particular book, if you decide you need to place a hold on it, place a hold on it. If it doesn't come in soon enough for your flight or whatever it is that you're doing, jump into Hoopla, get into your favorites, and get one that you can instant download so that you can have it when you need it. So our power users are learning how to do that. And it's really interesting because Neil, who's our innovations librarian, and e-content is his collection. That's all he does is e-content. He is teaming up with Chelsea, who's our teen librarian, who is a very good power user and is really good at teaching people how to be power users. And we're going to start training our public how to do that and offering sessions where you can learn how to do this and make the most out of your e-content.
It'd be interesting to have something like that as a little mini video on the website.
That's where they're headed. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Well, great minds think alike.
Yeah, they're hoping to go in that direction. They're kind of trying to figure out how to explain it the best way, and then they'll shrink it up to the most concise version and record it and put it online. So, yeah.
I'm assuming that with more downloads comes more cost. Probably not 100% tracking with the fact that it doubled. So in other words, double downloads probably doesn't need double cost, right? But
not
it
really.
probably needs more, but not double.
Well, because this is also the double downloads you're talking about. Some of these are usages for materials that we've already purchased. For example, Overdrive, and you get to a certain number of uses out of those. Whereas Hoopla is a one use, one cost, one use, one cost, one use, one cost. So it's not direct. It's not a direct one-to-one.
At what point does that start cutting into either our ability or desire to add to the hard copy collection?
Well, it's interesting because we do keep an eye on that in terms of how much usage there is, and we did shift some money out of print budget this year into our downloadables. But before it was print and downloadables, and they've been doing this,
right?
Coming more to the
Yeah,
middle,
I
and I have a
definitely
feeling
see
we're going to
that.
find that happy place pretty soon, where we're appropriately balanced. So, I don't think that there's a misconception that we will eventually be all ebook, and I think that there was a lot of novelty on the front end of it, but it really is sort of a format thing. There's been a lot more research showing that people who like traditional books, and people who like ebooks, like ebooks. I'm one of those people that uses a little bit of both. I like traditional books at home. I like ebooks for travel because they're a little more portable.
That's exactly where I am too.
Yep. And I think there are a lot of people that do that, and so then you see that usage of those particular patrons that shifts depending on what it is they're doing, right? But the reality is, and I tell this story a lot because I think it's really telling. When my nephew several years ago went off to college, he went off with a computer and assumed all of his textbooks were going to be ebooks and whatever. Fast forward 5-6 years later, after he finished his undergrad and his master's degree, when he graduated with his master's degree, we asked him, "What would you like for your gift?" And he gave my brother a list of reference books he wanted in print. And my brother looked at him and said, "Hand those to your Auntie Julie, she'll buy those for you. She'll buy any book you want." But it was funny because I said to him, don't you want this in some sort of electronic format? And he said, "No, I'm an engineer, and there are so many times when I need to be able to flip back and forth and mark pages." He said, "You can't do that with an ebook." So even this young person who is a digital native was like, no, they're still used for books. And so it's a format thing. And I think that we'll always have some of both, but we've got to figure out that sort of measure of how much of each. So,
Great, thanks.
yeah.
Anyone else? That was a great
I was going to
discussion.
say, I wonder if Neil and Chelsea have ever used Scribe, because that's a really good utility for capturing on a screen,
Oh, maybe.
the process flow of interacting with various screens and whatnot, and then that can be condensed into a video format. So you can you can
And
just follow.
Loom does kind of the same thing, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
I will ask.
And then ChatGPT will write their script.
Well, both of them are more digital native than I am, so
Yeah.
I won't judge based on age, but they are definitely more digital native than I am. So I will make sure that they think of that. But I'll invite Neil to come in to an upcoming meeting and talk to you about
Yeah, that'd be
kind of
cool.
what's popular and that sort of thing. I think he would love to do that.
Yeah, great. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I think we're now ready for the library's director's report.
Okay. So we are a community collaborator. In partnership with Independence Parks and Rec and with the support of the Friends of the Library, we are pleased to be adding another little free library to the community. This will be the 6th in our collection, which includes 2 installed in downtown Clarkston by a Girl Scout troop, 2 at local mobile home parks, and 2 in collaboration with Parks and Rec that are located at Bridgewater Apartments, and this newest one that will be at North Sasheville Elementary School. Beautifully painted by local artist Kathy Cordair. It will be installed as soon as weather permits, meaning unfrozen ground. Next item, each year, Molly Weiner, our school outreach coordinator, along with our Friends of the Library, partner with Clarkston Community Schools on the Battle of the Books program for the elementary and middle school. In this quiz bowl style competition, students form teams, read a selected group of books, and answer questions about what they read. Adding to the fun, each team selects a team name and creates costumes, hoping to win additional recognition for these creative efforts. This year, there were 116 battle teams across the district, with 517 students participating from all 7 elementary schools, supported by 177 coaches.
That's an awesome statistic.
It was huge, absolutely huge, and it has been growing every single year. It's a lot of fun, and I just want to point out that the cute little picture, those are the district winners from the elementary level, and they are the verbal gerbils.
Oh, I love
These
it.
are elementary school kids?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm getting old.
Okay. Next item, I am continuing to work with Clarkston Community Schools on their 2025 to 2030 strategic plan. As a community representative on their planning team, it has been a great experience learning more about school operations, participating in these deeper discussions about local education, and assisting them in turning outward to engage with the community. 4 strategic pillars have been developed with a goal for each and a list of focus areas that are now being connected with specific activities and projects. So they're sort of in the same place we are. We're a little bit further ahead on our strategic plan in terms of our list of activities over there, and we're putting timelines to them, but they are kind of tying their activities into their goals now. Next item, on Thursday, March 6th, I attended the State of the Community Address with Mark Ostach as the MC, Sue Wiley, Mayor of the City of the Village of Clarkston, Dr. Sean Ryan, Superintendent of Clarkston Community Schools, and Chuck Feil, Supervisor of Independence Township, presented their summary and vision for the community. If you missed this event, it was recorded by Independence Television. Thank you, Independence Television, and will be on the ITV website. Bill Bowman, Nancy Moon, and I are continuing to work with IGD Solutions on the Clarkston Historic District website transition to an updated version of the software, providing easy access to an extensive archive of the history of more than 150 homes and buildings in Clarkston's historic district. The value of this unique resource that includes an interactive map and virtual walking tour continues to grow as we now add access to the official documentation that is part of the preservation process. So that's a continuing project. So under our strategic direction, we are a go-to place for learning and resources. Every year, the Library of Michigan hosts a project to select up to 20 of the most notable books, either written by a Michigan resident or about Michigan or the Great Lakes from the previous publication year. Then they sponsor tours for some of the authors to visit libraries throughout the state. Libraries apply for this honor, and one of our librarians, Deb Tenbush, has been working on an application for our library. We have received a letter from the Library of Michigan that Felicia B. George, author of When Detroit Played the Numbers, Gambling's History and Cultural Impact on the Motor City, will be visiting our library. We're super excited. Our author visit will take place on Monday, June 2nd. Next item, our Read to Pause is a fan favorite program coordinated by youth librarian Jamie Kloss. Trained therapy dogs visit the library so that children learning to read can sign up to practice their skills by reading to a patient for a friend. After a short break over the holidays, we are thrilled to have this very popular program back on our event calendar. So thank you, Jamie, for doing that, and for the great dogs that come in and their handlers that bring them in for us. At the Spring Friends of the Library General Membership Meeting, 3 of our librarians will be presenting about our special collections they manage. Tom Mackey will be talking about our circulating board games. Molly Weiner will share our youth world literature collection, and Emily Heverly will provide details about our CID library. We look forward to sharing these projects on April 16th at 7 p.m. and hope people will come to that. And then We Are a Vital Organization. On February 21st, the Earned Sick Time Act, ESTA, was finalized. We had already done much of the important work putting these benefits into place and making sure the accrual system was working properly, but some small changes at the end of the process needed to be incorporated. Thank you to Nicole. Nicola Evans and I have worked together to quickly review the documents and webinar provided by our labor attorney to incorporate the changes for the board to review tonight. And then last but not least, the CID Vault is a unique collection of non-traditional items that we circulate to the public, ranging from small tools like an air quality tester to much larger items like a metal detector, as well as items that need to be cleaned, like themed cake pans. We have been working with Ann Searink, our library law specialist, to develop a policy and procedures for the board to review to assure this innovative project is successful. So lots of interesting things going on.
Any questions or comments?
Busy report.
Let's move on to regular business, the review and approval of the CIDL vault policy.
Speaking of the vault, so this is something that David and Neil have been working on, and then I was collaborating with them and getting it off to the attorney and back. The CIDL Vault is a collection, as I said, of non-traditional library items available for checkout. The collection was developed with the support of the Friends of the Library and includes things like a telescope and metal detector, themed cake pans, a sewing machine, an air fryer, bongo drums, a stud finder, a graphing calculator, a white noise machine, a light therapy lamp, and a variety of other useful items. A policy has been developed and reviewed by the library's attorney to provide clarity as to how these unusual items fit into the rest of the traditional library operations, as well as addressing the higher cost and potentially hazardous nature of some of these items, like the sewing machine, that kind of thing. This policy was reviewed and finalized by Ann Searink, the library's attorney specializing in library law. So I don't know if anybody has any questions. David had hoped to be here tonight to talk to you about it, but I think I'm well versed enough to answer your questions if you need me to clarify anything.
Well, I have one question. Under checkout limitations,
Yes.
the second item says items can be renewed once if there are no holds, but item 4 says they cannot be placed on hold.
Oh, interesting.
So I found that a little confusing.
That is a little confusing. I wonder what.
Sounds like it can be renewed.
That means you'll have to bring it back.
I guess we want to take out the items cannot be placed on hold. Let's see, which one do we want to take out?
I don't know. I like the. Well, it's up to you. You're the library director.
It doesn't make any difference to me which one is taken out. I just, in the interest of it not being confusing.
It's nice to be able to put something on hold, though. You know?
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because otherwise you're spending your whole time trying to game when it might come in.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? In this particular situation, I would want to double check with Neil and David to see what they would want to do.
Sure.
Right, absolutely.
So maybe we can approve it with the understanding that 2 or 4 would be removed depending on what they decide.
Yeah, that's fine.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't want to make a call on that because I have a feeling if I have a 50-50 chance of figuring out what it is they would want, and I'm going to guess wrong. So, good catch though, because we all read through this and nobody saw that but you.
Yeah, we did
apparently.
not.
So, thank you for catching
I didn't
that.
see it either when I read it.
I was a proofreader in an earlier life.
I did see it, but I didn't say anything.
Oh, okay.
Well, you need
Because you
to.
did.
That's why we bring it to you. The more I see things, the better we are at catching stuff, right?
Anything else somebody noticed?
Now I'm looking at it more closely.
Question, have we had people checking out any of the items in our vault to date?
Oh, yes,
That's what I
definitely.
thought.
Yeah, it's
remember
been
Kid
live
Pops.
it's been alive for a while. It's just been recently that we realized that some of the things that we were starting to put in were, but in the beginning, it was things that were less of a concern. But when we decided to add the sewing machine, we're like, oh, we need to talk to the attorney and get some safety in there.
For the number of times that I've jammed up my sewing machine, I can buy that.
Yeah, exactly.
People think, buyer beware.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Any more discussion?
I would move that we approve the policy as presented with the note that we wish one of those two items removed.
Second.
We have a motion to approve the CIDL vault policy as presented with a decision being made on whether we use 2 or 4. Any questions, comments? All those who agree, please say aye.
Aye.
Those who disagree, please say nay. Motion carried. Now we're ready to review the request for out-of-state travel.
Neil Part, the library's innovations librarian, is responsible for coordinating the library's e-collections, including Hoopla, Overdrive, Tumblebooks, and Canopy. Overdrive, based in Cleveland, Ohio, hosts a conference to gather librarians to learn, network, and share best practices regarding digital content in libraries. Neil has requested permission to travel out of state to attend Overdrive's Digipalooza on August 13th and 14th, 2025. The total cost, including mileage, meals, and accommodations, is estimated to be $1,204.96. While many conferences have simultaneous breakout sessions that require you to choose what you will attend, this compact day-and-a-half event is made up of shorter sessions without conflict to allow a library to send a single attendee and have access to it all. Neil has provided a summary of the event and the list of conference sessions focusing on AI, maximizing resources, marketing, and engagement as they pertain to libraries' digital collections. There is sufficient funding in line 911 conferences and workshops to accommodate this request.
Given the conversation we have, I think it's absolutely appropriate and important that we stay on top of things. And it fits with our strategic vision.
I like the format of the conference where they're short sessions and
I was impressed with that when he showed it to me.
Yeah.
I really liked that because so many times you see a conference and you think, all the best sessions are in this time slot, and then there's nothing really in this time slot that I needed, but how do I go to 3 things at the same time? So, yeah. I loved the layout of this one for him.
it's a tight schedule, though. I'll be impressed if they stay on schedule all
Yes.
the time.
It's pretty
That one,
tight.
whoa.
It is pretty tight.
It is. I agree. Any other discussion? May I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the out-of-state travel for Neil Parr to Digipalooza in Cleveland, Ohio in August 2025 as presented.
Second.
We've got a motion to approve out-of-state travel for Neil Parr to go to Cleveland, Ohio in August of 2025. All those who approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Those who disapprove, please say nay. Motion carried.
Would you like him to come back and talk about this particular event as
Yes,
well?
please.
I kind of want him to come and talk to you about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that should be kind of a standard practice.
Yeah.
You know, because,
Yeah, the public wants to know. too.
right, I
Yeah.
mean, we should be interested in, we're not trying to micromanage, but we should be interested in those kinds of, because policy will need to be set about some of these things too, so.
So then my question is, would you like him to come and talk about our usage at the same time he comes to talk about the conference that's going to put us in the fall, or would you like him to come and talk about our collections in advance on a short one and then come back after the conference and talk about it some more?
Say short
Twice?
ones.
That one.
Yeah.
Two
Yeah,
shorter
like
ones?
split, yeah.
Okay. I don't think he'll mind. He loves to come and show off what he does. I don't think he'll mind.
He's a cool guy. Okay, let's move on to the updated PTO policy.
All right. And I have an assistant here who can help me with some of this. On March 18, 2024, the Library Board approved an employee policy handbook that included a time-off policy based on the proposed Earned Sick Time Act. On February 20th, 2025, the Michigan House and Senate passed HB 4002, and the governor signed it into law on February 21st, 2025. The act became effective immediately. Employers have been given until March 23, 2025 to post the act and notify employees of these benefits. Fortunately, the policy the library board approved last year was close to what is now required. Nicole and I attended the webinar conducted by our labor attorney and made the updates we believe are needed to bring the policy into compliance. This involved clarifying some wording and adjusting the number of hours that can be rolled over at the end of the year. Because many employers are scrambling to implement this law, our labor attorney is extremely busy. We request that the library board approve the updated policy as presented, which is a good faith effort to assure full compliance as soon as possible. We will have our labor attorney review the updated policy in the coming weeks and bring the policy back to the board if he recommends any further updates. The original policy was written by Mike Bloom, the library's labor attorney, based on the proposed ESTA. The updates were written based on the documentation and webinar provided by the library's labor attorney, so that also was Mike Bloom. After the amended act was finalized and signed by the governor, and as I said, a final review of the library's updated policy will be done by our labor attorney as soon as he's not quite so bogged down.
What was that last sentence?
As soon as he's not so quite so bogged down.
Yeah. Well, this way we're covered, and
Yes.
Otherwise, if we don't do this, then we're going to miss the deadline. So.
Yep. And the only thing that we tweaked a few
Changes
things.
weren't huge. I mean.
No, I highlighted, Nicole highlighted them in yellow for you. I did give you the notes that came from the attorney so you can see what he said as well. We clarified a few things. Those were of our own reading through and, oh, this should go here, we should add some text here. But really it was the amount to be rolled over that was the changed thing. There was the ability, the original act didn't have anything in regards to front loading, and this one does. The difference in terms of front loading versus accrual, if you use the accrual system, you need to let people roll over 72 hours. If you use the front loading system, you don't have to let them roll anything over. I think that's unkind. I don't think we really want to do that. So Nicole and I talked about it and thought if we did everybody 72 hours, that seemed like a nice, just kind of a nice way to handle it, keep everybody in the same place in terms of the amount that's being rolled. So.
The advantage, I suppose, to front loading it is then you don't have to do the accruals, which can be kind of a bookkeeping nightmare.
So I think in our case, it would be harder to do it the other way. So if people use the function and then left, so
Right.
especially like circulation where we have a higher turnover,
Right,
they might end up owing, and if they don't work a lot that last paycheck, it can be kind of difficult to get it back. That's kind of why we talked about that a little bit, about that being an option. But luckily, Paycheck's been very good at keeping track of those accruals for us. So it's all manually done through our payroll system.
Okay.
And the nice thing is we did it way in advance, and so Nicole has been playing with it for almost a year, and she was answering emails of other libraries saying, how did you get Paychecks to make this work? Can you tell us which boxes to check? And so she's been helping some other libraries get up to speed because we figured it out last year. So, so thank you, Nicole, for doing that because that was a lot of work. So.
Any questions or comments?
So obviously, we're now putting into place a policy where we're going to be paying out that sick leave when people separate employment, including, what they have on hand plus, any carryover that they have. And I see that we're limiting it to 72 hours. What's kind of the thought process behind that? That's a new benefit.
So how it was before is there was a bank rollover that you could have. You could only have a maximum bank of 100. So we had a rollover amount last time. It would take like a part-time person probably like 2.5 years if they didn't use any of their time to get to that amount. Because right now I think it's about 50 hours a year, 48 if they work the maximum of 55 hours per pay period. And that's the most you can work as a part-time here at the library. So the difference, I think I had sent Julie originally an email, I don't remember the exact numbers, but it's probably about a 20-hour difference between the old and the new. As if they use no hours and they left at the exact end of the year, not using any. And then of course it would reset to 72 again once it goes into the next year. Does that make sense?
Right. What I was more asking about is just, you know, we're now gonna pay that out as people leave, and we weren't doing
We
that
were paying
before.
that before.
We were paying that.
Yes.
We were.
Okay, so that's.
It's not new, no.
It's highlighted in yellow. Like
Well, it's highlighted in yellow because it's the, we added that text in where it did not sit before. It was we
So
clarified
it's
it.
somewhere else.
Yeah, so
Yes.
before when we had done even the audit with Eiley, she had said something about a specific thing not being stated, and when we read through it, we realized that that's probably what she had meant. So we
But it
made
wasn't
sure to
stated
put
under
it
each.
Right.
Under the float, holiday, and whatever, but those were all practically like that anyways.
Right.
They just weren't specifically stated in the policy, so now they're stated 100%, so that everyone is clear. So that's already part of our payout amount that's calculated.
Got it.
It was stated under vacation, but it was not repeated in holiday, which was
Yeah, I
its
can
own
see
little
that it's
piece.
under
Yep.
vacation,
Yeah. So we went back in and we put it in so that it repeated everywhere where it pertained. She kept saying, well, it's not in there. It is. And then we realized when we read it, she's like, we realized, oh, she means it's not stated under each section. And so we put it under each section.
So, can I ask a question, please?
Of course.
I'm not reading fast enough to hear it. So, at the beginning of the fiscal year, does every full-time employee just automatically get the bank of
Yes.
72 hours?
No. The full-time
They still
employees.
have to,
the full-
it tracks along as, go ahead.
The full-time employees get 96 hours at the beginning. The
Of the
part-time
year.
at the beginning of the year. The part-time employees accrue 1 hour for every 30
Right.
hours worked.
So we are, just so I'm clear, we're sort of, if a full-time employee leaves, they will have banked X amount or not. But if they decide to leave the library 2 weeks into the fiscal year, they'll get paid out for 72 or 90.
No, it's prorated.
It's thank you, that's the
It's
word, that's what
prorated,
I'm
yes.
asking. Okay,
It's prorated on the front end and the back end. So if
Okay,
somebody
thank you.
starts at the library,
got it.
like
Yep.
near the end of the year, we prorate it, we only give them for the little bit at the end of the year when they start, and then in January, they would get the full 96 hours. And then when they leave, if they leave before the end of the year, we calculate it all out, and we only prorate, and they only get paid out for
only
that,
what
which
they've
would be-
earned.
Yes,
So
it's only what
thank
where
you.
does it say that in the policy though?
Yeah,
It's
that's,
the proration, where is that?
Upon separation from employment,
prorated
in the-
unused vacation time will be paid out.
yes.
So it's the sort of the second,
Oh,
under well, that's under vacation
What
at
about
least.
sick time? Because it just says.
Yeah,
Sick time.
it says it will be
sick
paid
time
out
will be
the,
paid.
what's in their bank.
Oh,
Right.
nope, that's a mistake.
But like we're front loading the bank and
Yeah.
and like you said,
We just,
you give somebody 72
This one should
hours,
say
they leave
prorated
2
as
days
well.
later.
No, you're correct. It should be
cool,
prorated.
I'm glad we caught that.
So it would say prorated unused sick time will be paid out, just like the vacation, just we'd move it up to.
Right, so if it's, if it's front-loaded, it's prorated. If
Right.
it's not, then they get the full.
So I think that amendment needs to be made both on the full-time
Yeah.
and part-time.
Well,
Sick.
Part-time, we have to pay out the
You
whole
have to
thing.
pay out what's in their bank.
But they've
Because
accrued
they've
all
earned
of
it.
that, none of that
There
was
is a-
front
there-
loaded.
Right, okay,
Right.
got it.
Yep.
And that's part of
We're
the
not front
law.
loading the part-time.
Because we're not, okay, thank you.
All right.
And now
Note
it's a little-
taker, let's make sure we get this corrected the way it needs to be. So prorated holiday, prorated unused holiday time is paid out upon separation. So that
Yeah,
part is
that's correct,
correct.
right, it's just the sick bank.
It was just
So,
under the paid time, right?
yeah, sick leave upon separation of full-time will be paid out.
I think it's just right here.
Yeah. On a prorated basis. I'm just trying to figure out the wording so that you can. Sick time on a prorated basis. Thank you. Okay. And this one is part-time. Part-time employees. Okay, so the only change is the one on page. Oh, I had to take it out because it might renumber when I put it back in the thing.
The page that was.
Right before vacation.
Yeah, before vacation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other changes?
Can I ask a loosely related question?
Sure.
So I just saw something the other day about part-time employees under the Secure Act, which was enacted, around 2020. And the fact that employers now need to let those people, if they work more than 500 hours, into their retirement plans. So we have a defined contribution retirement plan, right? And do we let those part-time people into the plan?
So we would not contribute, but they could open one.
You don't
They
have
can
to.
open
law says you
the,
don't
well,
have
they
to.
can't go into they can't go into the defined contribution, they can go into the 457, because we have a defined contribution of 457 in HCSP. So they could go into the 457. The 457 is actually open to anyone who would like to join.
Okay.
At any time, they don't even have to put in any number of hours. So
Okay.
that's always open.
And the defined contribution, what is that, like a 403B? Is that a 401A?
It's a 401A.
Okay.
Still learning.
Oh,
He
no,
looked at
that's-
me, I was like,
Yeah, 401A. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, cool, thanks, sorry.
no, of course.
Anything else? So we have a question. Do we want to approve the PTO policy with this proposed addition, or do you want it to be updated and come back next month with the addition already done before it's approved?
I think we can just do it with an amendment, right? Yeah.
Well, because then I'll have to take it to the attorney anyway, and if he sees anything else that we missed, you're going to see it again anyway. So.
Oh, okay.
Well, we have until March 23rd to post this and notify employees, so
Yeah, each employee has to have,
probably need to do it.
yeah, like, we'll have to mail them out to people who don't mail out.
Okay.
So do we need to approve it so that you can post it?
Yes,
Yes.
please.
Yeah.
So if you could, if we want to change the recommended motion to be approve the updated time off policy as amended. And the amendment is under the sick leave for full-time employees. Upon separation from employment, full-time employees will be paid out for unused sick leave on a prorated basis.
I'll move that we approve it as amended.
Second.
We have a motion to approve the PTO policy as amended, dealing with proration of sick leave. All those that approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Those who disapprove, please say nay. Motion carried. Now it looks like we need to pay a bill.
So the library contracted and executed a strategic planning process with Fast Forward Libraries. This project was budgeted in 2024. The project was completed in early 2025, so the invoice for the final payment arrived in 2025 and will need to be expensed in 2025. In addition, this invoice is before the board because it exceeds $5,000. So this is a board-approved project and was budgeted in 2024. Since the final payment of this project was not expended in 2024, the money to pay this invoice reverted to fund balance on December 31st of 2024. A budget adjustment moving that money from fund balance to line item 801 professional contract services into the 2025 budget is needed to allow for this final payment to be made.
Any questions? I believe we need a motion to pay Fast Forward Libraries.
I move that we make a budget adjustment and provide approval to pay Fast Forward Libraries invoice. Budget adjustment of $15,900 from fund balance to line 801, which is professional and contract services, and approve the payment of the invoice from Fast Forward Libraries for $15,900.
I'll second.
We have a motion to approve a budget adjustment of $15,900 from fund balance to line 801 to pay the invoice from Fast Forward Libraries for $15,900. All those that approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Those who disapprove, please say nay. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Now we have follow-up on some questions from the fourth quarter financial report.
So in your little pile of handouts, the first thing is, there were two questions that were asked. The first one was regarding property taxes and that amount of money. So the response to the question, I probably could have answered it that night, but I wanted to do a little bit of homework on it before I did so. So the county doesn't really make us whole on property taxes. Essentially what they do, the township bills people for their property taxes. We are on the December tax bill, so it goes out December 1st. They have from December 1st until February 15th to pay their taxes. If they do not pay their taxes, the township turns it over to the county, and the county continues to collect the taxes. So each month in your consent agenda, you see that tax settlement and distribution. That's where the county has collected taxes and turned it over to us. And so that money continues to collect over the course of each month, and at the end of the year we have a total. So that doesn't explain why there's this change in the amount, why it's so much lower unexpectedly. But essentially, it would be either people not paying their taxes, or it could potentially be that taxes were not appropriately turned over to us that are owed. So I'm currently working with the township and the city to get the ad valorums for the year, which is the final of all of the tax collections, and making sure that they did indeed turn over everything that they were supposed to turn over, since that is a bigger number than we expected in the past. And then the other thing I'm going to do is check in with the assessor and make sure. So the way we calculate this is that we take the total property value of the city and of the township, and we multiply it out by our tax rate based on the taxable value to get that number. We don't really, when it comes to things like state aid and penal fines, we estimate those numbers, and I tend to estimate low. But when it comes to property taxes, I just do a straight number and I put it right into the budget. And there's a reason I do that. The reason I do that is because I wouldn't want to reduce that number saying, oh, in case we don't collect all the taxes, this is how much I think we're going to get, because I wouldn't want to lie to the public about how much we're actually taxing. If it were to come out to be more, if I had estimated really low and it came out to be more, they would think, well, how did you collect more than what you thought you were going to get in terms of taxes? I shouldn't be messing with that number too much, and so I don't. I put it in directly. Now, what that doesn't take into account is, for example, if there is personal property tax or something like that that we're not eligible for that is being counted in that number, and that's something I need to double check with the assessor to make sure that the property value number that I'm using is the correct one, and that there isn't something that I missed that should have been subtracted out. So I am currently working on that, but I wanted to let you know that's kind of where I am in figuring out that number. Okay? A little more to come, but to be figured out prior to the audit. Okay. Does that answer your question, Alan?
Yeah. I mean,
or do you have a bigger question now?
No. What I get out of that is that you're working on it.
I'm working on it, yep.
And if you'd like my help with recalculating that,
okay,
I'd be happy to help you with that.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Because you're right, it's going to need to do that before the audit, because they're going to ask the same question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The other question was about the money from the brokerage account and how that was handled. The report that I gave you last month did not include some of the calculations that our accountant had already done. And so this report, this profit and loss report that you have before you tonight, is the one that she would like you to have. What I gave you was not the version that she would have liked for you to have. And so she said, please give them this version and also hand them the budget from the final amended budget for the year, which is the separate one. So you have those two papers before you. So I don't know if you have any questions based on those.
So are there adjustments that are going to be needed to this? I mean, we booked all our accruals and...
She is to the point where she's finishing that all up, yep.
Okay, so we really there shouldn't be a whole lot of movement in these numbers.
Mm-mm. No, but the one that I sent you, she still had a couple calculations that had not been incorporated yet. There were some things that were missing. Apparently, I printed the version before she was finished, and I didn't realize I had done that. So. We have not set an audit date as of yet. So if you have further questions, feel free to reach out and ask them, because we're not to the point where we're scrambling yet. We're still tying up loose ends at the end of the year. But I wanted to engage you before we got to the audit so that you would have time to ask your own questions prior to that. Mm-hmm. So.
Any additional questions or thoughts after this new set of information's been provided? So we'll wait for the audit.
Okay.
Next, we have a message regarding federal funding.
Okay, so Stephen Bowers, the Executive Director of the Library Network, provided a summary of concerns regarding possible cuts to funding at the federal level and how that could affect libraries. It is his intention to raise awareness about how those funds are being used and what services would be effective if cuts are made. So the first thing is, for our library, 90% of our budget comes from local property tax. The money that we get that is federal funding is E-rate, which comes out to be about $3,500 a year. It's not a lot coming from federal funds directly. What is coming to the library that would be federal funding is that our interlibrary loan system, so MELCAT and MEL, are subsidized by the Institute for Museum and Library Services, which is a federal organization, and it's routed through the library network. And so to make a long story short, what Steve is trying to tell us in this message is that if those funds get cut, because that program is subsidized using federal funds, the cost of running those services would then be passed off to the public libraries, and so we would be looking for ways to fund it in a different way. So that's the dangerous piece of it, because that is a very big service in terms of being able to interlibrary loan materials to and from other libraries.
And that's a big service, I'd imagine, statewide. Mm-hmm. Do you have any estimate of how often our patrons are using our libraries?
If you look at the state aid report, we are doing a lot of interlibrary loan, and so it's the part that's one of the expensive parts of interlibrary loan is the delivery service. Mm-hmm. That's subsidized to the point that only costs us $2,500 a year to deliver mm-hmm. books all over the state of Michigan per library. So that would be a big cost increase, I'm sure. It's delivered by trucks, and it only goes library to library and mm-hmm. and that kind of thing. Many years ago we used to do it by mail, mm-hmm. and we don't do it by mail anymore. We haven't done that for a really long time. So it's a concern. It's not going to be on a per item basis. It's going to be we can't really calculate it that way. It's going to be the delivery service. And so that's why Steve is saying this is where I'm concerned, because we will take the total cost of delivery and then we will divide it out amongst the libraries potentially, as opposed to
like prorating, like our library patrons have X amount of things that they've borrowed across the state. So it wouldn't be based on actual... It's
based on the number of times they stop at our building. So we currently have 2 days of delivery a week. They come on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Okay.
Other libraries have 1 day a week. Some libraries have 5 days a week. It depends on how many. So we have 2 days a week service. And so however much they determine 2 day a week service costs them, that would be the amount that would be handed off to us.
Okay. And theoretically, libraries could band together to do that service less often. Mm-hmm. We could get it once a week if push came to shove, if we didn't have the funding or whatever.
I think the other thing that they're hoping, and he mentions this in his letter or his message, is that he would be hopeful that the state would potentially consider how to change where they're spending the money mm-hmm. for statewide services in order to support these, what we would consider to be crucial services, as opposed to some of the other things that would be softer services. So for example, we might lose grants for access because they're funneling that money toward interlibrary loan and things that are more critical. So okay. It's a little bit vague at this point, but I think in terms of our immediate concerns, we have a solid budget, we have a solid fund balance. I think we would be okay, but this is a concern definitely. So it's something to keep eyes on.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Comments? Okay. Well then, I think I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved. Second.
The motion has been made to adjourn the meeting at 7:22. All those approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Those who disapprove, please say nay. Motion approved. You can all go home.